Dear students, welcome back to today's class. Now, technically speaking, this is the very last chapter that I am going to explain to you in this whole course. The next chapter is going to be taken by my Shamis. Now, even though my contribution to this course is coming to an end very soon, trust me, if you need any suggestions, if you require any information or any kind of help, please feel free to knock me, be it through Messenger or be it through mail, whatever the medium is. I'm always there for you, alright? So without further delay, let's start with today's chapter. So we have performance appraisal today. Now, as you can see from here, a boy is holding a report card, right? So maybe he is going through his grades for the semester. So this boy is going through his performance record, right? Similar thing happens in performance appraisal. So here, employee's performance is being measured. So appraisal, in some sense, means measuring somebody's performance. So yes, today we are going to discuss performance management and appraisal, and this is chapter 9 from your book. So without further delay, let's move on to the main component of today's chapter, performance appraisal. Now, what do we mean by performance appraisal again? Even though I do not give you the formal definition, I guess everyone will be able to understand what do we mean by this term. Even then, let's take a look at the formal definition. So here it goes. Evaluating an employee's current and or past performance relative to their performance standards. So again, we are measuring performance here. But before measuring somebody's performance, we have to set a target or a performance standard for that person. Again, before measuring somebody's performance, we have to set a performance standard or a benchmark or a target for that person. That yes, this is your performance target for the whole year. And after the end of the period or the year, we are going to measure that person's performance compared to their target. So we are going to find out whether they are able to meet their target or they have fallen short of their target. So they have not been able to meet the target. That is what happens in performance measurement or performance appraisal. Now, this is sort of the broader definition. In detail, performance appraisal consists of 3 steps. Number 1, we have to set the work standards or the goals. Again, we have to set the goal or the target for that person. That yes, maybe for this year you have to sell 3,000 cards. Now, once we set the goal, the second step is to assess the employee's actual performance relative to those standards. So here, after the end of the year or a certain period, we are going to measure the actual performance of that employee. Now, going back to the previous example, here we are going to count the number of cards sold by that employee. So after measuring performance, we found out that yes, this specific employee was able to sell 100 cards this year. Finally, after measuring, we are going to provide feedback to that employee. So we are going to say whether that person did well or did poorly in this year's performance appraisal. So maybe in the earlier case, we are going to say that employee that yes, you sold only 100 cards and you are not able to meet this year's performance target. So briefly speaking, these are the 3 steps of a performance appraisal process. So we start with setting a target and then we measure the performance against that target, and finally we provide a feedback to that employee. Now the fun part is, with regards to performance appraisal, you people, yes, you people who are listening to this video have also participated in the performance appraisal process in some manner. How? Through this. See, all of you know about this form very well, right? So this is a teacher evaluation form. So here, through this form, you basically measure the performance or evaluate the performance of each teacher in a course. So as I said, all of you have participated in the performance appraisal process in some manner already. Now, the main purpose of this video is something else. Remember, the first step of performance appraisal is to set work standards or goals or targets. Now, when it comes to setting goals, we have to follow certain criteria, or you can say rules. So when we are setting goals, these goals have to be SMART. And I'm 100% sure you have seen this word in your earlier courses. Maybe in MGD 201 or maybe in MGD 211 or in other courses. You must have seen this word somewhere. Alright? So as I said, your goals have to be SMART. What do I mean by SMART? In SMART, S stands for specific, M stands for measurable, A stands for attainable, R for relevant, and finally T for time-based or time-bound. So these are the characteristics your goals must have. So your goal has to be specific, your goal has to be measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based or time-bound. So if you can achieve these characteristics when designing your goal will be very solid and very easy to follow for the employees. Now, as I said, you know this SMART word already, right? So I'm not going to bore you with the formal definition right now because again, you know all this. So here is all the details about the SMART word. So what does specific stand for? What does measurable stand for? And so on. However, I'm not going to explain all of these because again, you know all of these, right? So I would request you to go through this slide if you need to at your convenient time. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain this SMART word using a thorough example. I think that will be more helpful. So rather than going through the boring definition, it's better if you can design a SMART goal, right? So that's what we are going to do right now. So listen to me very carefully from now on because I'm going to show you how to start with a very poorly written goal and then slowly, step by step, transform it into a SMART goal. So for this example, we are going to go back to our professional racer again. Why? So that you can apply all the learning that you had in your earlier chapter in this chapter as well. So here, we are going to set up a SMART goal for a racer. And for this example, again, we are going to start with two new racers. On the one hand, we have Fardeen, and on the other hand, we have Raisa. So these are the two racers that we have, and for them, we are going to set SMART goals. So let's start. So at the very first, we are going to start with a very poorly designed goal. What can be a poorly designed goal? Here it is. So we start with this goal, drive a car. Now, as you can see, if you give this goal to a racer, to a new racer more specifically, that person will be really confused, right? I mean, this is very poorly written. It has just these three words, right? No given time, no target, anything. Just drive a car. So again, this is a very poorly written goal. So we are going to convert this goal into a SMART goal step by step. So now, what does S in SMART stand for? S stands for specific. So let's make it specific first. How do we do it? We can do it like this. So I rewrote this goal in this manner. Trainee racers have to drive a new car fast enough in the races. Now, how is it specific? I have specified who is this goal for. It is for the trainee racers. Then why do you have to drive this new car? In the races. So again, I have tried to make it specific by saying who is this goal for and where it needs to be performed. This is how you can make a goal more specific. Simply by specifying who is going to perform it, where is it going to be performed, and so on. So yes, we have successfully made this goal more specific. Now, let's take a look at the next characteristic of a SMART goal. Now, as we discussed earlier, M stands for measurable. Now let's take a look at this line. Is it measurable? I don't think so. Why? Because this objective does not have any quantifiable numbers. If we do not have any numbers, usually we cannot measure it, right? So again, in order to measure something, we need some sort of a number here. So right at this moment, this goal is not measurable. How can we make it measurable? Let's take a look at it in the next slide. So as we discussed earlier, we have made our goal specific right now. So how can we rewrite this goal in such a way so that it becomes measurable? In this manner. So trainee racers have to drive a new car at 1000 miles per hour in the races. See, we have some sort of a number here. Now we can measure the performance, right? Because we have a quantifiable number and it is measurable. So here, as we can see, we are asking our racers to be invincible, to drive at lightning speed. So that is how we make a goal measurable, by bringing in numbers. So alright, till now we have achieved specific and measurable. Now the next characteristic of a SMART goal is A, which is achievable. So the goal has to be achievable. Now let's take a look at this line again. Do you believe that this goal is achievable? I mean, driving at 1000 miles per hour speed. Is it practical? Never ever. So if your boss sets a goal like this, you know what will happen? this is going to happen. So they are going to call your boss a crazy person because it's inhuman to achieve 1000 miles per hour speed. So now we have to make it achievable. So how do we do it? Let's take a look. So till now we have achieved specificity and we have seen it how to make it measurable. Now how do we achieve the next characteristic? By writing the objective like this. So trainee racers have to drive a new car at 250 miles per hour in the races. So this might be achievable. This is more practical. So you have to set a target that is actually and practically possible to do. So yes, till now we have seen how to make a goal specific, measurable, and achievable. Now the next characteristic in a SMART goal is R, which stands for relevant. Is this goal relevant? Now let's assume that you are a professional racer who's supposed to drive in a Formula 1 race. So one with the really good looking cars, alright? Now given that, if your boss now asks you to drive one of these cars, so maybe your boss asks you to drive one of these racing trucks or a Bangladeshi truck, does it make sense? Is it relevant to you? No, because in the actual race you are going to drive one of these fancy cars, right? So you are supposed to drive one of these Formula 1 cars. Now given this situation, your boss cannot ask you to drive one of those trucks, right? Because it does not comply with your overall organizational objective. Your organization's objective is to win one of these Formula 1 races. So again, being able to drive a truck at 250 miles per hour is not relevant at all. It does not go with your company's overall objective. So for that, we need to make it more relevant. How? By saying this. Trainee racers have to drive a new F1 car or Formula 1 car at 250 miles per hour in the races. So yes, your goal has to be relevant. How? By setting your employee's goal in line with the company's overall objective. So maybe company's mission, company's vision, and so on. So if your company's mission is to be the #1 racing company in Formula 1 racing competitions all over the world, in that case, employees' objectives has to be in line with that Formula 1 race as well. Bringing in trucks will not help here, alright? So yes, till now we have seen how to make a goal more specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant. Now the final characteristic of a SMART goal is T, which is time bound. Now by looking at this goal, do you think it is time bound? Is anywhere in this line any time mentioned? No. So it is not SMART yet because this goal does not have any time specification. So how do we make it time bound? By doing this. So if you write, trainee racers have to drive a new F1 or Formula 1 car at 250 miles per hour in the races within the next 3 months, then it is time bound. So we are giving the trainee racers or the new racers a specific time to learn all of these things. So it is time bound now. So yes, we started with this very poorly written objective or goal, and we learned step by step how to convert this goal into a SMART one. So it has all the characteristics of a SMART goal. So that is how we can write a goal which is more SMART. So now I'm sure all of you know how to write a SMART objective. So this being done, let's move on to the next concept for today. This is a very simple topic. So we are talking about performance appraisal, right? Now, who can be the appraisers or who are the appraisers? And by appraisers, I mean the people who can appraise my performance. So who might be given the responsibility of measuring an employee's performance. So let's take a look at the list of people who measure the performance of employees in any organization. So the most obvious appraiser is the boss, right? So your direct supervisor can appraise your performance or measure your performance. So I'm 100% sure you know this already. Now, besides the boss, who else can be appraisers? The second point is your peers. So basically your colleagues. So they can be asked to measure your performance. So they can be asked that whether you are a good employee or a bad employee, whether you have good leadership skills or you don't have good leadership skills, and so on. Who else can we go to for performance appraisal? We can also go to rating committees. So what is a rating committee? Committee consisting of your supervisor and 2 or 3 other supervisors. So here, Along with your boss, there are 2 or 3 other supervisors who are going to rate your performance or measure your performance throughout the whole year or throughout a specific period. We can also have subordinates. So if you are a boss of somebody, or if there is somebody who is working under you, that person can also measure your performance. So maybe the HR manager goes to your subordinate and may ask that person that whether you are a good boss or a bad boss, whether you are a good leader or a poor leader, whether you are compassionate of others, and so on. Alright, who else is there? Now, this one is a funny point, and I'm sure when you see this, you will be really surprised. So the next point is yourself. I know you are really surprised to see this. Like, how come I myself can be asked to rate my own performance, right? I mean, if that is the case, you will give yourself full marks in all the criteria. I mean, everyone will say that, yes, I'm the best employee, I'm the best leader, I'm the best performer, right? Trust me, if everyone is asked to do this option, the outcome will be something like this. Every boss will say that, yes, that person is the world's best leader or best boss. So what is the solution here? So actually what happens here is this. Rather than asking you only about your own performance, we collect performance measurement scores from other people as well. So the HR manager can ask you for your self-rating, and at the same time the HR manager might go to your direct supervisor, and then the HR manager can also go to your peers. So basically the HR manager can collect data from 2, 3 or 4 sources at the same time. So what is the benefit here? Even if you give yourself full marks, when we average the marks of the performance measurement score from 3 different sources or 2 different sources, your high scores will come down. So that is actually what happens. Rather than taking score from one single person, often HR managers collect scores or performance measurement results from 2, 3 or 4 different sources altogether and then recalculate the scores. Now the last point regarding the appraisers is something like this. So the last point is 360-degree feedback or appraisal. Again, 360-degree feedback or appraisal. What happens here? Rather than collecting data from one single source, we collect rating or performance appraisal from supervisors, plus subordinates, plus peers, plus customers, plus suppliers, plus distributors, and so on. So basically, we collect performance feedback from multiple stakeholders. And that is why we call it 360-degree feedback, because we are collecting data from every single person possible. So yes, maybe in a 360-degree feedback, your HR manager will collect data from all of these sources at the same time. That might be called a 360-degree feedback. So yes, in this slide, we have seen all the different appraisers that we can have in an organization. So congratulations, we are done with this video. See you very soon in the next video.